It might have been eons or seconds, I was none the wiser, but from the centre of this nothingness a faint drop of colour grew. Drip by drip the colour pooled and eventually formed into a dream and a memory from my childhood. It was a beautiful, clear, blue sky summer's day, and I was a 9-year-old child again. It was a day that wasn't particularly different to any other. My parents were out and I was locked in my bedroom. I was only able to look out at the alluring warmth of the bright green chaos that was the garden. Within my locked bedroom, which was without carpet, there was a variety of punch bags and gloves, a dirty mattress embedded in the corner of the room, a plastic bucket that was half full, and books upon books stacked in another corner. These tomes of knowledge went stories, heroism, love, friendship, or fantasy that hid the reader away from reality. Each book had a purpose, and that was to build the mind's understanding and skills of inflicting violence. The topics were martial arts, military strategy, chess, and historical wars. My father had the belief that such analytical development would improve my ability to fight. Anything other than these books he believed would make me weaker than I already was. I had stopped my training and opted to apathetically watch the going-ons outside. The sun's rays shone directly into my eyes from the corner of the window, so I had to put my hand up to block them. It was a while absent-mindedly staring out the window at the anarchy of the garden below, before a strange feeling bubbled up to the forefront of my mind. At first I did not understand what it was and what it wanted. It was odd, as when it took over, my absolute fear of my father became quite easily ignored. With this feeling of curiosity, I set about trying to break free from my prison. I checked everywhere in my room for anything that could help me. I looked under and within my books. I explored the cracks in the floorboards. I looked around my training equipment. It wasn't until I finally peered under my mattress that I found a small teaspoon. I quickly used the thin handle like a screwdriver to unscrew the safety locks from the window to get it wide open. Without a thought, and only being guided by an instinct to get out and explore, I pushed the window open and climbed up onto the edge. It's quite obvious to me that there was only one way down the 2 floors, by the drain pipe that went down from the roof next to my window. Without hesitation, I grabbed it, pulled myself close to it, and slowly eased myself down. It wasn't a difficult task, and it wasn't long before my feet touched warm concrete paving slabs. The small platoon of these green mossy slabs kept the chaos of a large garden at bay from the house. I had lived in this house my whole life, and before this point I had never explored the garden. It was off limits because, according to my father, there was no reason for me to go into it. The garden was the kind where all-out war between thistles, grass, nettles, and other such weeds took place. You could not walk through this battlefield without becoming a victim of collateral damage. As I was already quite desensitized to pain, I did not worry about my naked and bruised body getting hurt by this small patch of nature. I casually walked into the chaotic growth to explore. The nettles lapped up the opportunity to lash at my bare legs. I was somewhat intrigued by the turmoil and the complex patterns from the plants that grew there, but ultimately I was not satiated. I felt there was more that I wanted and needed. I was about ready to leave and climb back up to my bedroom when I heard a buzzing sound that reinvigorated my waning interest. I followed the noise and spotted some odd-looking black and yellow creatures on some knapweed. It was love at first sight, as I'd never seen something so silly and adorable in all of my then short life. A strange sensation took hold of my face, and I felt it stretch and my teeth become bare. What was even weirder was the gurgling shriek-like noise that leapt out of my mouth. I jumped back in fear and excitement at the sight of the peculiar creatures. I couldn't fathom the strange emotions that had grown out of my chest. More odd gurgles and giggles came. I slowly inched closer to the silly creatures as they flew from flower to flower. I rasped at them, leapt back and giggled again. I edged closer to them again and sat my naked behind on a large tuft of nearby grass. With tilted head I watched in amazement. it. I soon got up the courage to reach over to try and touch one of them. My hesitation meant that for the first time I did this I missed. As a bumblebee had flown away to go to another flower, I huffed in frustration and looked for another target for my affections. I was quick off the mark now, but as they appeared so dainty, I was mindful to be gentle as well. I lightly stroked the insect with my index finger. It didn't respond and simply carried on with its farming. I, of course, found absolute joy in this, as it didn't react to my affection with violence. More excited gasps and giggles came. I spent hours watching and lightly stroking the bumblebees in the garden that day. Midge and flea bites gathered all over my arms and legs, but the obnoxious loudness of the bites could not take me out of my enthrallment with the bumblebees. I didn't quite understand what was going on. I just simply felt that I wanted to be around these fuzzy little things. Bit by bit, the lights started to fade in the garden. One by one, the bees became less numerous. As the lights slowly disappeared, the garden started to appear more and more ominous. Also, familiar instinct became louder and louder, imploring me to go back before it's too late. Suddenly, in one blink of an eye, I was back in my bedroom again, except this time I was a couple of years old and curled up in a ball in the corner of my room. I was doing something I had not done since I was a toddler, and that was to cry. The mucus, tears, and blood from my wounds all mixed together to drip into a little puddle on the hardwood floor. Again, it was a clear blue sky, June day, except this time the sun contemptuously stared down at low lows below. Eventually I stopped weeping, which meant I was able to hear the odd expletive coming from outside. A dread gripped my stomach and chest as I realized what was going to have to happen. I slowly and wearily pushed myself up to look. A quick wipe of the mucus and blood from my nose left a trail down my forearm. Even with the sun blazing through the window, my naked body felt cold, and I shivered uncontrollably. I shivered so much that I nearly fell to the floor, but I persevered and carried on to the window. There, standing in a half-dug-up garden, leaning on a shovel by the palm of his hand, was what appeared to be my father. Except all that could really be seen was a lanky shadow with piercingly cold blue eyes. These windows to the soul immediately set upon me with accusatory rage. I quickly dropped down to my knees to hide. I heard many a word being hatefully said, but I could not comprehend them, although I knew it all related to a further punishment, as I had refused to destroy the bees' habitats. Then, for some reason, 5 of his words cut right through the haze and chaos in my head. "Oh, you fucking faultless." That was when I came to.